Hello, it's been a while since we've done a car one, and I love car videos, so I'm out and about on a busy day, but I am going to do a tag. It is called Finally Fall. It's been fall for like 2 months here, but we're going to talk about some crispiness, some darkness, some daylight savings time coming up. It's a traumatic time for all of us, and we're going to join in together. It's also one of my favorite seasons. I love living in Canada. I love all the leaves. Fall, I just feel like a spring in my step. And yet I know winter is coming, and winter is the robber of all joy. This was created by Elliot and Mary. Both of their channels are amazing. One, which is that fall is crisp and has a vivid setting. So for this one, it has to be Rebecca. Rebecca is one of my favorite books of all time. It's by Daphne du Maurier. It came out in 1937 and is this beautiful story about this girl who is very young, and she's a companion to a woman who is very cranky, and then she ends up meeting a man who is probably in his late 30s. His age is never quite given, but he's old enough that he is, probably at least 18 years older than her. And he has a wife who died only a few months ago in a drowning accident. He is haunted by this woman. But after they go on some car rides and explore some beautiful hillside and she reflects, they end up getting married, and she goes back to his house at Manderley and discovers everyone's greater and greater obsession with this woman, Rebecca. And it is incredibly fascinating, incredibly beautiful. It is like the edgiest close to horror without actually ghosts appearing. I feel like you just feel like you're with Rebecca. You feel like you're with a narrator who doesn't have a name, which is one of my favorite tropes of all time. And her reflections on insecurities, on youngness, on her desire to hold things and to be loved are so relatable. It talks about jealousy. This book, even though most of us aren't going to marry an older man who has a wife who's haunting him from just beyond, this is something that you see so much. Number 2 is that nature is beautiful, but it is dying. So let's read a book with a heavy topic. And for this one, I had to choose Don't Cry For Me by Daniel Black because it is such an incredible book. It deals with a man who is writing to his son. He is now in his 60s and he has cancer, and it's set in 2003. And his son is gay. It's something that he's never acknowledged to his son, and his son has never acknowledged him, but is an open secret. And we begin with his early life. And I think he would have probably been born in the 1940s, but because his parents died early, he was raised by his grandparents who were enslaved when they were children. So it looks at how close slavery is to the modern day and how much that impacted the way in which he learned and the ways that toxic masculinity and all of that. And it is such a beautiful book. And Daniel Black is himself gay, and he kind of wanted to write this. His father had dementia and was never able to have those conversations, but this is what he imagined as a catharsis of what his father would have said to him if he was able to tell his story. And it is really beautiful, and it doesn't justify or try to explain or try to make too light. It deals with all of the craziness and the nuance of everything so well. Number 3 is that in fall, school sessions begin, so choose a nonfiction book that taught you something. This is a recent read and is We Are Displaced. This is an incredible story. She begins with her own story where we're all a lot of familiar with. When she was 14 years old, she was shot for standing up for women's rights in Pakistan. And it looks at her story, and then we go through all of these stories. We look at these sisters from Yemen who talk about their own story and about how they were separated and made different lives and the ways in which they desire. And we look at a lot about how immigration and refugees especially can separate families, and they can never regain that, and the choices you have to make. It was published in 2018 and was a reaction to the Muslim ban and to the ways in which the then president was very, very hurtful to the immigration experience. And that is something that still echoes today and still echoes in Canada, where I'm from. It is something that is incredibly frustrating. So I think that this is a book everyone should read. I like that Malala talks about lending her name. She's like, this is a story I've already told, but if telling my story can lend credence and notoriety to other people's stories, I will do that. And it is so well done. The next one is kind of funny because it talks about how family and fall and all of those things, and how you should choose your fictional family. And I had to choose the bear town. This is definitely a screwed up family system / town. It is set in Sweden. It is about a hockey town who one of the star players assaults one of the girls, and the ways in which people protect and the ways that people shouldn't protect people who have done wrong things. It's about locker room talk and the way that we enable misogyny to happen, and it is a really powerful book. It also deals with a lot of other things, and beyond this is the really strong community ties, this desire and the ways that people are united despite differences and the ways people grow. So even though definitely a problematic town, I still think that out of everything that I read lately, it is the place that I'd probably want to live. Like, I don't know, I want to know these characters, have these really conflicting and hard things, be super into hockey, because I'm super into hockey. I'm Canadian, I love hockey. My team, the Sens, made it all the way to the Stanley Cup playoffs and lost when I was 10 years old, so that made me a hockey fan forever. I probably should have chose a different fall themed thing to do, because this one has a thing where I'm supposed to show colorful spines, and just imagine this. I'll take a picture or I will put a video in with here with some fall, beautiful fall colors. Next one is 6, is talking about fireplaces and the ways in which we sit down by the fireplace and we tell stories, and to recommend a book in which someone is telling a story. And I struggled with this in a book that wasn't super obvious. The book that I ended up choosing for this was Crooked House by Agatha Christie, because it has a very strong narration. I actually don't know the dude's name. He's a soldier in World War II, and he meets this girl as a nurse or something overseas, and he ends up falling in love with her, and he goes back and he's like, oh, I want to marry this girl. And then, like, when they're supposed to re-meet to get married, she's like, there was just a murder in my family. The patriarch was killed. So he ends up going into this town with like this very interesting dynamics and convoluted, like literally like 12 different people live in this house. It's like the aunts and the uncles and the siblings and like the grandkids, and like this one aunt that everyone hates. Like, it's very, very interesting and tells a story of a murder, and I really love Agatha Christie. The next one is to read a creepy book, and for this I realized I picked another du Maurier book, and how could I not? Daphne du Maurier is wonderful, and My Cousin Rachel, just incredible. I really, really enjoy this book. I really enjoy the stories, and it is about this man, and so this guy is kind of adopted by his great uncle, and his great uncle has health issues, so his great uncle goes. The issue is that the man never makes it, so he ends up traveling all the way to Italy to find his uncle, who starts like writing about, like, you know, my Rachel, my passion, my end. And he's like, okay, these letters are kind of dramatic and creepy. And he goes, and she's not there, and then he goes home, and then Rachel shows up at the house. And it's her house now because she was married to the man who lived in it. And the dynamics, the like ways in which you don't know what's happening, it begins with a hanging, and so far the 2 Daphne du Maurier books I've read, the beginning of both echoes the end in such interesting ways. And it's a book I would love to reread again. I read it in October and it was a perfect book for that. It makes you keep on guessing what's going on, what's going to happen. Is Rachel good? Is Rachel bad? How much is the narration good? The obsession. It's so good. And then number 8 is about how, you know, as the days get darker and stuff like that, you often need like a cozy book that's heartwarming. And this one has to be Nimona by N.D. Stevenson. Such an incredible graphic novel that's just great. It's set in this like world in which like fantasy and superheroes are kind of just existing. And Nimona just wants to be a sidekick to the evil men. And he talks about henchmen, and like, it's kind of silly, it's kind of fun, and it also has like these arch enemies who are like, they went to academy together, and then he's like, yeah, they just decided I was gonna be the villain. It pokes fun on all the tropes so well. And then number 9 says my favorite season is fall, which mine is as well. I really, really love it. So choose an old favorite to reread, and I'm gonna choose The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I read it 4 falls ago, and I really liked it, but I had some issues with the ending. Now that I've read 3 more Evelyn Hugo books, I'm really interested to see the ways that I would interpret Evelyn Hugo now. And I don't know, Taylor Jenkins Reid is just really good. I really love her books. I want to go to her backdated books too, but I'm having like a reread feeling about her books, and Evelyn Hugo feels like the most fall. And then number 10 is bookish accessories, and I just said tea, candles, blankets, Taylor Swift playing in the background. Some people can't do music. I always do music, pretty much primarily. So that is my background. I want my fall candles, my tea, chai tea with maple syrup in it. That's my go-to. It's so good. So I am so excited for fall to continue. Hopefully it won't like completely crisp over here yet. And let me know what your favorite season is, what your favorite fall is if you've gotten this far. Do the little like falling leaves, like the 2 of them. I think they're really cute. So I'll see you next time. Happy reading, writing.